Welcome to Wealthing Talks. I am your host, Alicia Castillo Holley, bringing you real-life conversations from Silicon Valley or somewhere around the world. We will talk about disruptors, angel investments, venture capital, and of course, family offices. Join me along with my children, their families, friends, disruptors, and investors as we explore the fascinating world of creating wealth in a completely different and authentic way. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to introduce to you Adrian and Senofer Mendoza. Adrian, Senofer, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
So let's start with what are you doing now, which I'm a big fan of what you're doing, but let's tell people what you're doing now. And how did you get to do that?
Yeah. Then do you want to go? I can go.
You go first, and then I'll fill in.
Yeah. We have now been running Mendoza Ventures a la January 10 years. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. I know, Alicia, you even commented on that in LinkedIn, so thank you. And our story starts is we were tech founders. We raised VC money on our first company in 2009, 2010. And then mid 2015, the board said, go find something to do. And we did. And it was an interesting time because VC comes in cycles, investors come in cycles. And at that point, we were in a cycle where there was no such thing as seed or pre-seed money. It was all moving to Series A, Series B, because people were like, oh, it's too risky. This is 2014, 2015. And also at the same time, we were in a time where like when you met VCs, they were lawyers or asset managers. They weren't entrepreneurs or operators. So we said between each other, well, we should start investing. And it's either go meet the angel investors. So I met all the angels I know, and one of them was like, "Oh, I'm sleeping in the company's office because if not, I'm never going to see my money back." And I was like, "Oh God, I'm not going to be an angel investor."
Yeah.
And then the funds were all upstream. So we said, well, why don't we start Mendoza Ventures? We're going to start a fund with just our money. And then all of a sudden we saw everything and everything you can think of, from like juices to dating apps. And we kind of took a step back 3 months later and we're like, let's invest in what we know. We built fintechs, we built AI, we early on, we built cybersecurity, and that's kind of pointed us in our direction of our true north. And 10 years later, we now manage 3 funds in-house, 4 exits, 12 entities in total, about 150 LPs, ranging from everyone from a high net worth accredited investor up to an institutional investor. And we sold our first company out of Fund One, like 5 months to investing, and returned to 10x. And I'm proud to say that that was two Mexican American founders from South Texas. And then we stole their mascot, which was VC Puppy. And so that's how Puppy became
Show it.
he's our deal tombstone, but he's fuzzy and plush. And
Yeah.
every
And he goes
investor,
so every founder that we invest in and every funder that invests in us gets a VC puppy. So if you see him at a conference or something, say hi because they're with us.
Oh, nice. And you have the goat.
I have a duck or
a duck.
goose.
A goose.
So
a goose.
this became a joke because for April Fool's one year we said, VC puppy's out and VC goose is in, and he flies through investment committee and does his business on all your deals. And that was our joke and then it became a TikTok thing with Andrew Chan. So now VC Goose floats around the office and pops up on TikToks every once in a while.
No, that's fine. Well, I love plants, so I have to do something with the plants. Actually, let me see if I can show you this. And in this, I have a great garden. And in the summer, I have,
it's so pretty.
and they smell great. So these are here in my, these are here in my office, and they smell fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, so I have to do something with the plants because I like plants. Yeah. And I can't have pets because I travel too much. But anyway, so what are you doing exactly right now? You're investing in pre-seed and seed?
so we first fund one and fund two were all pre-seed seed funds.
Okay.
And I'll tell you right now, for all the investors that are listeners, the J curve is real. It is a real thing, having sat through two J curves. And then in fund three, we said, well, why don't we wait and just go one fund? Like, how do we shorten the J curve? And it was, why don't, instead of doing a pre-seed to a seed, why don't we do a late seed to a Series A? And you can shorten 2 years of the J curve. And so we are now investing out of our third fund, which is mostly late seed Series A, still investing in like 12 to 15 companies, still like we're coming in, we're leading deals, we're sitting onto the board seat. But where we've seen in the market is we're walking in, and what I lovingly refer to as getting a company VC ready, getting the first like comp committee, infosec committee, building the first board, finding the board. And there's a lot of work involved, but in the benefit is being able to get the larger institutional investor in. But also at the same time, we work with a lot of founders that are coming to us where we kind of see like they've gotten traction and it's now time to get to the next level of let's get you to that commercial customer. And it was funny because it came out of over 10 years, we were doing this with pre-seed companies, but it was still higher risk, longer tail of the J curve. Why not do this a little later, still dealing with the same problems, but still being able to buy ownership at a better valuation? And it's worked for us. It's really been what we do really well. And so now what we're doing is we're taking a step back and saying, well, big funds are nice, but can we do things more thematically around one company or around a theme? And our themes right now are focused on like DeFi, LATAM, and also like, all right, let's focus on maybe shortening the J curve from 15 years to 10 years to can we shorten it to 5 years? And that's something we're starting to explore right now.
Oh, that's fascinating because some of our, I have around 100 companies in my portfolio. So that had, so after a while, and I was actually semi-retiring when I moved to Silicon Valley, but I continued investing and it got so big that I asked my son to come and help me out. And then my friends wanted to invest with me. So I did a club, not a fund. And one of the things that we're doing now, and I think it comes with maybe with wisdom or with age, is we don't invest unless we can help. So it's similar to what you're doing. And I think the best VCs are the ones that give more than money for real. Because I also see a lot of people that join boards and like you said, my area of expertise is life sciences, and a lot of people go and invest, and they have never taken a biology class. And I'm like,
Yeah.
can't believe this.
We actually don't invest in life sciences because I failed AP biology in high school, and we know what we don't know. I was like, clearly my brain is not meant to diligence this.
No,
Well,
and I'm a gardener, so I have, I just showed you my roses, but you should see, I have a food forest in my backyard. But it is mind-boggling to me that people would invest, and they don't know anything about the foundation. So I think VCs that have operational experience and they have the intent to really support the company, not to control it, but to support it, are the ones that make a huge difference. So that's why I'm a big fan of Mendoza Ventures. Yeah.
Well, and I
yeah.
think to your point, a lot of it's
Yeah.
experience. I think it's, when men tell their VC story, including Adrian, it's always, I came out of the womb and I was born to be a VC and now I'm crushing it. And the reality is we tried a lot. We tried,
Yeah.
We were operators first. And then when you sell your company, you start getting offers in to join another VC to do. And when we looked at the broader market, it was really what problem can we solve for? And it was that we had experienced venture capital and felt that we could at least make it better than the experience that we had by bringing some transparency to the table. And so I think when you listen to these stories, we just talked about 10 years of learning in 30 seconds. And it's really easy to other it. But at that moment, 10 years ago, we took a small chunk of money in 6 months and said, okay, we're going to take this much money in 6 months of our lives and we're going to try this. and see how this goes. And I think we just keep re-upping that 6 months.
Yeah. But also like when we started Mendoza Ventures also when we raised money, it was a really different time.
Yeah.
And that's something that like I don't think is ever talked about. Like we raised money from we pitched everybody. And people talk about like raising money now. This was the type, and I'm not going to mention names or firms, that you would walk in there and someone would just cuss you out and tell you to go cluck yourself because they could, or just say that's an awful and just go in and just browbeat you and like do whatever they wanted because there was
They
no,
had the money. Yeah.
yeah, because they had the money. And it wasn't like there wasn't a culture of, there was like right now in Silicon Valley, there's money everywhere. There's, family offices, there's founders, there's investment clubs, there's so many options. Back then, when you look at 2010, there was just a handful of firms and a handful of angel groups. And if you didn't get it from there, there was nothing. And they could act however they wanted to. And so when we started, we were like, let's build something that we would want founders like us to not have to go through these situations and build something that we loved. And that's been really our North Star because of that experience that we had.
Did you work together in the other company as well?
We did. We were founders,
So
but I was the
Adrian
one.
started in tech. I was designing hotels. So I was designing 4 and 5
You were
star
designing
hotels
hotels?
internationally. Yeah. I
Oh,
worked on the
wow.
San Francisco Marriott. I worked on a whole bunch of different projects, especially historic properties. And it was, in 2015, the COO role wasn't like as cool. Like there was no chief of staff culture that there is now. You were just like the operations person. And what I realized was that if you can land 900 unique pieces of furniture on time from China, you can COO a startup. That's really much easier. And so when we started the startup, I looked at the overall picture and also wanted my living room back and realized that someone operationally had to come in to make sure the trains were running on time. And so I stepped in there and learned tech that way. But my background was all in construction management and enterprise sales. And I think also Adrian and I just had different paths to get here. For women, I think it's always different. And I was very much the one that didn't think I was a technologist. And so learned it by doing it and then realized how badly tech needs really good enterprise salespeople and really good generalists and really good narrative. And it was sort of thrown in my face how much I was bringing to the table. And then I felt more confident growing in the role. But I laughed that I was the statistic that went into the arts in middle school. and if you look at my career, I was really I was managing 20 to $80 million budgets in the arts, but saw myself as a creative. And then tech just beat me over the head to be like, no, you're a business person.
That's great. That's fascinating. Where did you two meet?
We met here in Boston. Yeah, in 4th of
We
July.
met at a roof deck party in Beacon Hill on the 4th of July. So,
Yeah.
but we've been in business so long together. I was like, we need a better story. Like, I broke my heel on a cap table and Adrian was there or something.
Literally, it's June 30th right now. In 4 days, we'll have been celebrated 20 years of knowing each other.
Oh, that is so romantic. Well, congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, there was fireworks
He's
when we
very
met.
lucky.
That's when we knew it was meant to be because there was fireworks.
And you could see you could feel the fireworks. That is
Right?
yeah. No,
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That is a great story. What have you learned in these years, in these 20 years that you didn't know? What would you tell yourself? Especially you, Senofer, because you had a different upbringing. I grew up in a socialist family in a little town in Venezuela. So we were not poor. We were just capital agnostic. Let me put it that way. My parents to this day, well, my dad passed away, but my mom has no clue how the money works. And, I love her to pieces, but I was talking to her the other day and I said, you never gave us a stipend. And she said, nobody did. I mean, how do you think we're going to get the bus to go to school or to pay? And, I did classes in my house to other high schoolers. My sister sold avocados, or the other sister sold paint. I don't know. It was just a different upbringing. But you had a very, you were not born, you, Senofer, you were not born to be a VC. Adrian, I don't know if you were, but let's just start with her because her journey is quite juicy. What have you learned in these years working, especially as a VC, that you didn't know? What would you tell your younger self?
Well, I have a 12-year-old spicy version of me that I live with. Told all these things quite a bit. I don't know if she's listening though. She also has complaints about the size of her stipend, but we're in intense negotiations. I mean, there's so much, but I think that the biggest thing I've learned is to follow the money. I think that you really have to see how narrative is supported by experience and how lived experience is financed influences that. Like, I think the best example of this in the Valley is Ben Horowitz writing a book on hard things is laughable to any first generation American. Right? But it was really hard for him. And we're there for that too. But his journey, I see so many young people from different backgrounds hold themselves up against journeys that have been financed for 5 generations. And until you unpack that and look at the reality of the money behind what's happening, you can't hold yourself accountable to your own outcomes. Like, I love, we run a fellows program and our MBAs right now are all about KPIs. So I get grilled all the time on what should my personal KPIs be this summer? And my answer is always like, take a deep breath. Like, that's KPI number one. But they're holding themselves up against these very public narratives of Mackenzie Bezos giving out billions of dollars. And, that was a financed divorce. And so she's in a very unique position. It's hard to bridge that much in a generation. And so finding I think is really important. But I think the biggest thing is to unpack the narrative you're being told. I think especially women are told all sorts of things by the media and society and what we should and shouldn't be. And I think I just listen to everyone. And this could be, I'm in my 40s now. So this could be, I hear that there's this magical thing that happens in your 40s where you stop caring. And I think I've definitely experienced some of that as well. But I think I listened to everyone a little bit too much when I was younger and tried to bring my entire community along with me through every transition. And that's something I see a lot of female leaders doing when Adrian and I have built a very different life than the one that we had when we met, and not everyone's supposed to come with every transition. Now I'm much more comfortable with that, pruning and growing happening as it happens.
Wow, that's very profound, very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because each journey is their own journey. I was a single mom. I brought my kids here to Boston, but I was in my 30s, and now I'm in my 60s. And once you have teenagers, you stop listening.
So do they.
Right. No, I tell people, you can tell me anything. I already had teenagers. I've heard everything you can imagine. And you love your kids so much, and they can be so rude. And I still talk to them. They still talk to me. We're very close. But definitely each person's journey is their own journey. And I really appreciate you saying that we cannot hold ourselves accountable to certain standard because somebody else said so. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Adrian, your turn.
Oh my God, I have nothing
How
more
are you
to
going to
say.
beat that?
He's gonna say I would tell my younger self, watch out for girls on roof decks.
Yeah.
Well, no, absolutely
No, it
not. The
works.
opposite.
I know it's a go for it.
Yeah.
It's funny that I think for me, like one of the things that if we were to do this again, we should do it faster. and earlier.
And bigger.
Yeah. No, I think it's just faster. Like, and you'll hear me say this again, like I was, we were founders, we were accredited investors and didn't even know it.
Mm.
And like people would offer us shares to advise their companies, and they're like, no, 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 I need to focus on my thing. People would like, we should have been started Mendoza Ventures probably 3, 4, 5 years earlier and raised probably more money than we raised because we were like very much the Latino mindset of, oh, we're going to work hard and we're going to do this. And it was funny because years later, this was probably like 3 years in, we met a friend of ours that was actually, no, we met him through a portfolio company. Portfolio company was hiring like a PR agency, a female-led PR agency out of LA. Super nice. And they came to us and they're like, well, what are you guys doing? They're like, no, we're just gonna work hard like good Latinos. And then she's like, no, if you don't tell your story, no one will ever know that you're out there. And so we really made it a mission just be very public about what we do and the wins and the failures. Because same thing, like going back to Ten's comment about the story is to show the story and see it. And wouldn't you believe, like, I would say maybe about 5, 6 years ago, I got the opportunity to be on CNBC. And now I've been on CNBC like 3, 4 times. Every time I'm on, the calls, the emails, and the texts I get of there's a Latino on CNBC. Literally, while I'm doing it, I'm getting calls and texts from other people in the industry, the other Latinos that I know. And I didn't realize how much of a thing it was to be out there. It's why we put our name on it, because we realized that if we did it, one day someone would go through a cap table and they would see a Latino last name, you know, and it
Yeah.
really didn't hit home until about maybe 3 years into building Mendoza Ventures. EY did a list of the top fintech funds in New England
Mhm.
and like on the East Coast. And there was, of course, Bain, and there was like F Prime, and third on the list was Mendoza Ventures. And there was a Latino name on that list. And I didn't realize how much of a thing it was to just be open, to be out there, to the point that I was talking to a fund manager last week, and he was talking to a family office and a fund of fund. And they said, well, how are you different than Mendoza Ventures? Because they do cybersecurity as well. I don't even know who he was talking to. He gave me the names. I was like, we've never talked to them. It was really funny to watch. And I was like, no, share me the name. We should both go after them and say, well, this is great and all, but are you going to be an LP? You could talk about us, but why are you not an investor in one of our funds?
That's amazing. And it actually shows that you keep building and sort of finding your way, or maybe the way finds you. I don't know. I still don't know if I find opportunities or I discover opportunities or they discover me. I don't know. I think my life has been magical being here, and I listen to what you're saying, and your life is absolutely magical as well. So, and thank you for doing that because you build it. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
that.
and I think that was one of the things Sen and I learned really early on is your life, your ecosystem, your community is what you build. You build it around you, which is very different because most people, it gets built for them and they can't get out of it. So the more you are intentional on building it, and that is the right people, the right places, the right opportunity, because opportunity doesn't always come. And if you do get something, make something out of it. It's funny because I have a Latino CEO who has IPO'd a company before, and I had to yell at him about asking for help. Here's a grown ass man who has IPO'd a company who went to Stanford, and I was just like, ask for help.
Yeah.
Be unapologetic because the white guys that went to Stanford, they are gonna ask anyways. And you know what? It worked. Now he's like, I need help. I need so and so. And he's unafraid to ask because he's like, no, but like in my culture, we don't ask. And I was like, no, but we're not in Mexico. Like, ask. Even in Mexico,
Hey,
people don't care.
Stanford was Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that also happens to women because women tend to ask other women for compassion. we don't tend to ask for help. And we have, or maybe it's a combination of being a woman being raised in Latin America. We have this pressure that you have to be strong. And I talk to my daughter a lot about that. She has two daughters, and my son has a daughter and a son. But I talk to my children, but especially to my daughter, a lot about that because she's very assertive. And all these things about the imposter syndrome, I think it's a social construct in the US where we don't notice that. I never had the imposter syndrome. I had the delusional syndrome. So I was like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to go and do this. And like you said, Adrian, I would just stress myself, but I would get things done at a great personal cost. And I would just work and work and work and work. And I'm very happy to have done what I have done. But at the same time, I never thought being a Latino woman would prevent me from doing anything. I just said, okay, I'm going to have to work harder. But uh, but the fact that we don't ask for help, but we sit down to complain, it's like in Venezuela, we sit down to complain, the helplessness, that has to change for certain communities, not just for Latinos or for women. That has to change for certain communities. You have to be extremely assertive to be able to say, hey, I need this help, because it takes some form of humility, but it also takes the belief in your tribe, because you're not going to ask for help if somebody doesn't have the capacity to say no and doesn't have the capacity to help. And I think that observation about building a tribe is really useful. How can we support other investors and other founders to ask for help?
I think that there's so much like help out there for founders. Like any lawyer on the planet is happy to sit down with you and coach you through blitzscaling your company when no law firm has ever blitzscaled anything. It's an hour's billable business. Yeah, like and I think that what we see so many founders rely on is their perception of the expert. When again, like look at where the story is coming from. They don't diligence the help, or they don't quantify the specific help that they need. So when we came out to market with Fund 3, Adrian watched me go through this whole process where I was spending tons of time with other female investors. And it took, actually, Latitude used to have a conference called Latitude, and Laura Lucas and I were in the same room, and it was a bunch of founders pitching. Laura and I were the only two people in that entire room that could get $1 to $2 million through investment committee, and none of the men were talking to us. We were standing in the middle of the room, and no one was pitching us, or they were cutting our pitches short to go to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We don't have to write a check to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to, they don't, we both had a good voice on our investment committee, and we could have done it, but they hadn't done their homework to see it. And so what I realized was I was spending all this time with female investors, but none of them could either help me get $1 to $2 million from an LP, which is now the league that we're in, or help me co-invest $1 to $2 million through their own investment committee. So I was spending all this time getting help and giving help, but not moving the needle forward. And it was until I really audited myself and quantified, no, I need $2 million checks like now. And I need women who can write $2 million checks with me to get these companies going. Then my network got really small really fast, because we're still doing a lot of work for women in VC, but it also got 10 times more effective.
Yes.
And so I would advise everybody listening to this podcast to really quantify the help that you're getting, and then like vet who's giving it to you the same way that the VCs vet you. Like you wouldn't take bicycle lessons from Michael Phelps. So don't.
Yeah. Well, and it's really hard because now there's so much, like we see it now where founders are bouncing from accelerator to accelerator to accelerator, and they're just playing the pitch competition game, but they're not actually like getting anything that's useful other than like a 50 or 20K check. And especially female diverse founders. And it was like, guys, like go build a business. Like
Yeah.
you're not, the job isn't the pitch competition. And if you are going to get advice from people that are like you in your community that have done it before, not a service provider, not someone that's you pay for advice. It's anyone that has exited, that has gone through fundraising, is always willing to help because we've all done it.
Yeah.
And so this is why Sen and I talk to a lot of fund managers. We talk to a lot of people because we're trying to help as much as we can because we've seen it. Like you shouldn't be the only one doing it because there's a community of people around you. But even though there are a people that just won't talk to anybody. And it's hard because especially in BC, this is a culture of apprenticeship. This is a cult of personality. And in order to change it is you have to build your own networks and you have
Well,
to
and it's a culture of trust because all the real learnings are under NDA. You cannot, like any board meeting that's gone sideways, none of us can talk about in public ever. And so you need to have really good relationships with other people. The whole business happens in private. I love Wired. I love the information. I love all the media that covers this industry, but by the time it's in the media, it's happened 6 months ago.
Yes. Yes. Not only that, but much of the information that is on the public domain is information that has been polished and paid for because somebody is getting their ego robbed, or they just want to make money on the fees. I have a whole issue about this SPVs and the secondaries, and the real aspect, the real fact that venture capital can help. So I think qualifying the storyteller or the consultant or the supportive person is really, really important. I'm, you know, I'm so tired of people, consultants polishing decks and, go and run the business, like Adrian said. How many customers did you talk to? And when I used to teach entrepreneurship, and when I taught entrepreneurship, my students had to go and open doors that they couldn't open before. And there was a grade and there was a prize to somebody who had come and gotten to talk to an entrepreneur who have done something that they wanted to do in the industry that they wanted to work. But they could not be related to them. They had to prove, how do you open a door that was not there for you, that you build your path. And I think that's something that a lot of people, even if you want to be an investor, or if you want to be a founder, if you want to do anything really, you have to go and do the work. The work cannot be done and just listening to things in media, at least for me, is not going to cut it. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Well, I also think like the one thing no one talks about is there is, the tech crunch and there's Preqin and there are all the data sets. It's all self-reported and stuff is wrong there.
Oh, yes.
And that's the other thing. Like we once had an associate go through Preqin and pull a bunch of data on a cap table. And I was like, why are you doing that? We have access to the founder. That cap table's wrong.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
was like that you're not helping your case here of efficacy of data. Like clearly, like go talk to somebody.
Well,
The data junkie that I do follow is Peter Walker at Carta because he anonymizes like the group data and posts on LinkedIn all the time, and I follow that because they see all the cap tables. So, but Preqin doesn't have that.
Yeah, I'm an early investor in Carta through a fund.
They're an early investor in us. So
Yeah.
thank you,
Oh,
Alicia.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Good for you. Good for you. But Carta has around 30% of the market, and they have around 30%, 32% or 33% of our portfolio companies use Carta. So I really trust that. But I remember PitchBook, and this is public for everybody. So PitchBook once reported that we invested $20 million in a company. And I called them up and I said, we didn't invest $20 million in the company. And actually the round was more than 20 million. And they got back to me and said, but this is good for your PR. And I said, no, no, no. One of our values is transparency, and this is just not true. And it took us, and somebody made a mistake. Somebody made an honest mistake, but it was not us. Because as you say, self-reported. But it took us a couple of years to clean that up. And I kept telling them, it causes a lot of problems for us because then we have somebody expecting us to invest 20 million in a company and we don't. So just validating not only the person that you talk to, but where do you get the information from, is very important. And now with AI, and this is a very directed question, I feel that AI is used to support and validate what you ask. AI is not like your mom, it's more like your grandma that says, oh yes, it's good. Yeah.
Slightly unreliable
Yeah,
information
yeah,
and
it's
very
like, yeah, you
chatty.
did a great job. You did a great job.
Oh,
But it's not like it's not going to question what you ask, and it only takes the information that is available. And I was a scientist, and there's a lot of bad recommendations in science in general, in health tech, in ag tech, that is not true, but it's not filtered. So I think AI is causing more division because it doesn't allow us to question our assumptions and say, hey, this is another way to look at that. Talk to this person or look at this or validate this. How do you think we can, well, first of all, what do you think about AI and how do you think we can make AI work better for all of us?
yeah. I think it's funny. I have a really good example about this is about a couple of months ago. I forgot where I was traveling. I was going to meet another investor. So someone I know, another co-investor was like, you're meeting so and so. I'm going to create a brief on them. And they went into Gemini and they created a brief that was completely wrong. Literally, they were like, this person lost his license. And I was like, what are you talking about? This person is this. And they created this whole, like, it was started, but think of it as like a boulder. And then it kept on getting bigger and bigger. And this 3-page brief was completely wrong. And I was like, did you look at the sources? No. And I looked at the sources. And then I ran his same prompt on another LLM. And it was like, oh, typically this person is confused for this other person. And
Wow.
so then I was literally like, you just started disseminating information that is completely like wrong. You didn't validate it and you started sending this around and saying, we can't do business with this person is blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that is not even the right person. And
Wow.
so it's really important, but it is when you, so we have our MBA fellowship program, a couple of classes before, I would say about 2 classes ago, I was talking to them and one guy was like, oh, I took the cap table of one of our companies and I put it into ChatGPT. And I was like, whoa, we don't do that here. Because then you just told it what our cap table. Thank God he had taken the name off of the company. And so then the other guy says, "Oh, I just uploaded an 80-page deal document from one of my other like internships to streamline it down." Like they're so accustomed to uploading and feeding the beast. And then when the data comes back, they don't like clean it up. So that's a lot of dangers that we're seeing at. So that things that are in investment memos, things that are deal memos, you have to look at how they're getting it. And then it was funny because then on the founder side, we were just negotiating a sales agreement and she's like, "Oh, I have to go to the lawyer." And it came back and it was like Claude comment, Claude comment, Claude comment. I was
Oh,
like,
really?
"Oh my God. You're not helping your
Your
case here,
legal team,
your
yeah.
legal team." But it was funny where I have seen it helpful is we were doing a follow-on investment and I realized, oh, we have to do something with pro rata. And I actually ran 3 LLMs at the same time with the same prompt, generating a side letter for us, where the lawyer took 24 hours to get back to me. In the first hour and a half, I had it done.
Yeah.
And I still edit it, I still put eyes on it,
Yeah.
but I literally put it across multiple LLMs, and one was like, "Here, let me create a cap table for you." That's wrong. The other one was like making stuff up, and the other one was like, "Here you go. Here's exactly what you're looking for." So I think it is helpful, but I think when it's under a watchful eye and specific micro tasks, it'll be completely like helpful as not as an investment tool, but as a supplement to the work we're already doing.
You can't side cut the critical thinking skills that it takes to read something. So I'm less worried than Adrian. So it's to give you perspective, our middle schooler has a very passionate class and his teacher got fed up with being interrupted. So she opened LLMs in a little laptop and a desk on the side and told the class, if you cannot hold a question in your body until I'm done, go ask the LLM and then we'll audit it together at the end of class. And so I think we see these college kids now that got it kind of late and it became this big crutch in high school. But I think the elementary schools also see it and it's being used as a supplement to critical thinking. And that I love because I'm someone who gets major blank canvas anxiety. And so the fact that I can outline something in an LLM and throw it on the page, and usually I hate what it came up with, but it got me angry enough to start writing and get out of my own way. I think that's massive. And as a human race, we already had this argument when we translated the Bible from Latin to English and Spanish. Like, what are they going to do with all this information? It's too much. They don't have the critical thinking skills to do it. So I'm less worried about the long term. But Adrian's 1,000% right. I think it's one of those areas that regulation becomes really important because we need transparency into it. And to your point, if it's going to, I have no transparency into, is it prioritizing Carta data in the background? Is it prioritizing Preqin data in the background? Because there's so much false information out there on Mendoza Ventures too. I don't want that floating to the top. And there's no way to like submit a ticket right now and correct it, really.
Yeah. So, and it's also like,
you can ask, you can say, this is wrong. So I'll prompt you to run.
You can, but I don't really want to volunteer my time to $1 trillion company. I think there are nonprofits that need me.
Yeah. But also like, I'll use a good example, like
I'll send them a bill.
Every new version of an LLM, when you look at, let's say like interface or like research design, you always have a baseline question when going through sample statistic data. So we actually have a baseline question. And every version of the LLM that we see, we ask it, who is VC Puppy, the plush dog? And the version before Gemini said that he was a real dog, so active in social media. And then it kept on hallucinating and said VC Puppy is a tier of endearment in like private equity. And it said this associate is a real for a go-getter. And it literally created a quote. This associate is a real VC puppy. I was like, you can't make this stuff up. And then all of a sudden, like things got wiped out in the next version and says, I don't know who it is. The next rev of one of the Gemini revs, and I'm beating up on poor Gemini, it said, oh, VC Puppy went to Stanford and then he got his MBA at Harvard. And it literally found
which is
website.
what it says on it LinkedIn. Yeah, it's on LinkedIn.
So it found,
but it's a plush dog.
yeah, but what it happened is it found a website that was scraping LinkedIn that put it out into the public, and then the LLM found that website and then said, "Oh, this is truth. He did go to Stanford and Harvard." And I was like, "You can't make this stuff up." So we screen capture it, and then we just keep on going because we think it's funny.
So I did a few years ago. But yeah, I don't even know when, but 1 or 2 years ago, I gave a talk to a group of investors in Europe, and they made an introduction that was unusual. And I asked the presenter, where did you get the bio from? Because I have I have 3 or 4 bios that you can use, the short one, the long one, whatever. So I asked them, where did you get that from? And they said, oh, I think they use ChatGPT. I don't let anybody in my team use ChatGPT. If anybody comes to our office and they have ChatGPT in their computer, they have to use another Wi-Fi because of the way the information gets in and out. But anyway, so I went to the 3 biggest LLMs at that time, and I asked, create a bio of Alicia Castillo Holley, and like 3 sentences. And then I said, create that bio as if that person, and I was very neutral, that person was a white man, completely different, driven, ambitious, and then as a Latin American person, caring, loving, as a Black person, it's supportive of social justice. So it would pick things from the persona, but it would completely twist it.
Yeah.
And only if I were a white man, I would be considered an investor, and I have a PhD, and I would be considered a doctor. In all the other profiles, I would not be considered an investor or a doctor. It was what I felt was it was discounting what I could do as an investor, not as a person, but as an investor. And I think that was really telling. I should do that again because I did it like, I don't know, a year, 2 years ago. But I encourage you to do that, not just for the dog.
So we did so we use AI a lot in our firm. The fellows use it. We have strict rules about what goes in and out and things like that. The accelerant I've seen is, so I'll give Amber some props. Amber's been spending a lot of time in Claude, and we've rebranded her as Claudette because we've decided that we're hiring more women. And she is so agented up right now. She has a personal dashboard for her day, her week, her month. And that kind of easy visualization I love for the younger generation because, who in their 20s doesn't wake up and decide that they feel lost that day and how she has a dashboard. But I was doing a presentation for Congress, and our building on Newbury Street is very representative of the Capitol stack. There's a dry cleaner in the basement, there's a cafe, there's a hair salon, and then there's us and a real estate private equity firm upstairs. And it just worked out that way. And so I was asking it to do a section of the building because I may be a last minute queen and I didn't do my homework in time for Congress. So I was doing all my visuals in AI at the last minute. And I had to keep asking it to put women in the private equity firms. It would not automatically do it. And so I think that, when you ask about the future of AI, I think there are so few women actively investing in the space. And so many women are holding back from the conversation for all the things that you mentioned, when you really don't have to be qualified, I think, as the men have shown us, to be in this conversation. You can just show up and participate. And we've had very positive outcomes in how data is managed. And I'm not a data scientist, or how data outputs are managed from the startups in our portfolio, just because I asked questions, really dumb questions, of how women's professional data was being handled, how we were looking at data outpulls of healthcare data to make sure that we're not exposing things. All sorts of, honestly, I did not think I was the person for the board of this company, but because of just me being in the room and asking the question, I can think of 2 companies that handle data completely differently now. And so I really need women to just show up and be unqualified and sloppy about how we participate in AI, because the men aren't qualified and sloppy. It's new, it's new for all of us. But we're leaning out because we don't have the AI certificate yet to show why we should be there.
Yeah, but there's also women who are very qualified and they don't get and they don't get to show up because people discount them. And what happened to you has happened to me. I invest in space, in energy, but space in particular it has very few women. And I've been in places where I'm sitting down at an event and people are out talking to me, point blank. So they go to the tables where they're the guys. So we just need to continue changing that. And I think AI allows us to keep pushing the information and amplifying this. And I don't do that by serendipity. So I intentionally amplify underrepresented founders in the activities that I do, because people need to get used to seeing people that are not white guys. And my dad was a white guy. My mom is a white woman, but they didn't pick to be white guys. I don't remember picking, my race or my gender. Maybe I did, but I just don't remember. But it's a matter of continuing to push and amplify to make it normal to see people that are different. And then, like, I was in Nigeria a few weeks ago, and everybody introduced me as a impact investor investing in women. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't invest in women. I don't invest in gender. I invest in founders. And if you're a woman or if you're a man, I'll hold you to the same standard. But I know that you might have different paths, but I would hold you to the same standard. And second, I don't invest in impact. I invest because I want to get a return, but I just don't invest in things that I consider would cause damage. So don't put me in that bucket because of the way I look. And I think that's also something that intentionally we need to keep working on, because you see a Latin American, you think they invest in Latin America. You see a Black, you think they invest in Black. You see a gay, you think they invest in gay. You see a woman, so no, good investors invest in people, in my opinion. And we need to keep pushing that, because that's how we move forward for everybody.
We've always been a performance-based fund. And I think especially because we're in Boston, a lot of the other firms introduce us as investing in LATAM. I said, the last time I invested in LATAM, I married Adrian. So he grew up in LA. So where's your narrative coming from? But they just, it's just like a bridge too far that someone with Adrian's amazing skin tone could just be a performance investor. But they'll get there. We laugh that, we're at least 20 years younger than most of the VCs on Newbury Street. So worst case, we just have to wait.
You're definitely much younger than me, but this is really interesting, and I like the intention of Mendoza Ventures, because that's actually what it does. It lifts the profile for not just for Mendoza, but for everybody, and you do it by doing it, not by pretending. So
when we incorporated, there was an investment that we wanted to make, and our company before was Mendoza Design, because we're very creative here, and we had an investment that we wanted to make, and we put Mendoza Ventures on it. And then I was bugging Adrian. I was like, it needs to be something cool, like Rocket Ship Ventures. There's all these like Third Rock, because it's investing in Earth, and like all these cool Boston names were floating around. And then the New England Venture Capital Association had a crew race, which is very Boston. It's rowing on the river. And Adrian was sitting on the side cheering our team on. And our boat was the only one with a boat that looked like our city. And all the other boats looked like a neighborhood in our city, but our boat looked like the whole city. And on the backs of our t-shirts, it said Mendoza Ventures. And Adrian said, Mendoza was Hernando Cortez's second in command. So Adrian said, the last time this name was on this river under a flag was the 15th century. And so I want to keep it. For every kid that grows up, Chelsea is our Latino neighborhood, or Lowell in Boston, that happened to see it, that happened to be, leaving a job in Cambridge or whatever. I want them to see it and know it could happen. And so I can't argue with that. So that now this is the name forever. And, fast forward 10 years, I think it took me getting to a conference and not being able to get off the stage and get across the room to see what a huge impact this has had. There's now a Harvard Latino Alumni Association. There's now undergrads in Boston. I think we've met every Latino MBA that's come through Boston in the past 5 years. But there was, when Adrian went to Harvard, none of that was here. People would ask him what part of India he was from. And so, yeah. And he'd be like, oh, Tijuana, because he's sassy. But, but if that's the 10-year difference, okay, like I'll take it. There's a foundation here for the next generation.
That's fantastic. So let me wrap this up with a very spiritual question that I'd love to ask. When I was 13, I fell off a horse and I died, but I didn't die completely. I came back 4 days later. I mean, I was very fortunate because they didn't take all the things out. And so at a very, very early age, I knew there's going to be, my time is going to end. There's going to be an end to this life. So I'm very intentional about the things that I want to do. And so my last question is about that. There's many people that would listen to this that have absolutely no way of touching you, connecting with you, sitting down with you. So you're not there in their space. But there will be a time where this conversation is going to linger, where you're no longer here. So my question is, have you thought about who you are when you're no longer here in time and space? And what is the legacy that you build?
Here you go. Then you could take this one.
Adrian's like, I'm just trying to make it to next
What
week.
is what a
Yeah, I
power?
know, exactly. Me and the dog are just trying to make it next, till the next meal.
I think for both of us, it was a less big question when we started of it just doesn't have to be this hard. Like we all just don't have to make it this hard for each other for stupid reasons. And so when we started, it was what can we do? And we're pretty pragmatic. So we're like I'm a New England Protestant. So we're like, when you're dead as a haddock. And so do what you can until then. And so we really looked at it as what could we maybe accomplish in the next 3 years or so that would make it a little bit easier for the next person. And so that's really the legacy that we want to leave. And so when I think about the country as a whole, for me, that looks like 51% of the capital going to 51% of the population, or Latinos are what, 21, 22% of the US right now. Why aren't we managing 21 or 22% of the capital? Because when you define fairness, that's what that looks like. And so bringing that balance back to our country has a lot of positive effects on democracy that I think we're missing right now. And so when I think of legacy, if I can nudge those numbers a little bit closer, I think I'll have left it better than I found it.
Thank you. Adrian, how are you going to beat that?
I
You
can't.
really
I
married
really-
up.
I'll let you know
So
that.
did I. So did
Yeah.
I.
Yeah,
But
what a great
funny
couple.
enough, my daughter said that when she takes over the business, she's gonna fire me and the dog. And I'm like, what'd the dog do? So I've been told that I'm gonna get replaced as the CEO of Mendoza Ventures by a spicy version of Senofer that looks like me. So I think that's a good start. It was funny because
Just having a Latina kick you out of your office, though, is
yeah,
progress.
it was funny because last year we had a bunch of Latino family offices at Harvard, and we were doing a tour, and they were seeing like the names of the houses, and one of them was like, "This is legacy," and I'm like, "No, it's a name on a building is not legacy. It's what you do with the money." Like you can generate as much wealth as you want. You could be as public as you want, but if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't really matter. If you didn't do something, share something, as Sen said, leave it better than you left it, then why do it at all? It doesn't matter if you're gathering wealth like Gollum, never to share it, but like you have to do something. And that is really the entire goal of like why we're public about what we do is to be like, you can never say that a Latino wasn't an investor that with his wife. You could never say, like you've seen it. You now see it like there is now a model. Go beat me, go do more, go raise more,
Yeah.
go deploy
Please
more.
outperform us.
Yes, we want it. I shouldn't be the only one. Alicia, you shouldn't be the only one.
Yeah.
Like when people talk about it, I'm like, and it's funny because when you talk to these other random LPs or investors, they're like, well, it's competitive. I'm like, no, there should be more Alicias and Senefers and Adrian Mendozas. Like, I literally tell everyone, like, I know everybody. They're like, what do you mean? Like, I know every Latino investor that's starting a fund in both Mexico and in the US, and especially in the US. Like,
Yeah.
we know all of ourselves and what we can do to shorten the gap between the woman or the Latino that just graduates from college to get them to where we are. The faster we can get them there, that's when I know that we've done it. Because the reality is, years ago, actually, we were cleaning out our bookshelf. And there's a book by, I think it's Mike Davis, who's an architectural historian out of LA. And they were talking about, and this is like a book from 30 years ago, about generational jumps. To get where we have been, we have skipped 3 to 4 generations as Latinos, as women. Like, we now have to be like, if we did this and we did such a dramatic leap in one generation, we should be able to create a pathway for other people to just leapfrog and jump as well.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for these lots and lots of thoughts here. I am so grateful that you spend your time with us.
Thank you for having, we never get to do this together. So this was a
Yes.
treat. Thank
This
you.
is like, Alicia, you've gotten the one, I don't think we've ever done a podcast together. So the fact that you're doing it together, this is a first.
Well, we'll do many more. I think we'll do one next year, and we'll talk about the progress, because I think I learned, so I always learn, but this has been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for being with us.
Gracias.
Gracias. Well, this has been the longest podcast that I've had. I enjoyed it so much. The combination of practicality, people who know about wealth, people who know about money, people who have experience with no nonsense and very grounded couple that is running Mendoza Ventures. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to our Wealthing Talks. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To stay connected, visit us at wealthing.com. This is Alicia Castillo Holley, your host, and until next time, yours in Wealthing.